Yeah, I think transitions are really, really important. I don't think they're discussed enough. I believe that during transitions, as a teacher, you need to give your students a preview of what's coming. Because what that does is it allows them to relax and focus on what they're doing. And then you can point to the next transition or the next thing that's going to happen. And the other thing about a preview is the students, they can, in their mind's eye, they can see themselves being successful doing those things.
Welcome to the Teacher RockStar podcast, the podcast that's dedicated to providing valuable insights, practical tips, and proven strategies to equip new teachers for success. I'm your host, Steve Hiles, educator, published author, and instructional coach. Join me in each episode as we offer a supportive platform for navigating the challenges of the teaching profession. In today's episode, we're going to be discussing how to handle misbehavior the first weeks of school with our guest, Michael Linson. Before we get into today's topic, I'd like to take a moment to share a little bit about today's special guest. Michael Linson founded Smart Classroom Management in 2009. He has taught every grade level from kindergarten through high school for the past 33 years and is the author of 6 best-selling books. He has teaching credentials in elementary education, English, drama, and dance, and physical education, and an advanced degree in educational counseling. He is a frequent guest on podcasts and radio programs, advises school leaders and administrators, and works tirelessly to transform the American public education system. He lives in San Diego, California. Welcome to the Teacher RockStar podcast. I'm your host, Steve Hiles. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about how to handle misbehavior the first weeks of school with our special guest, Michael Linson. Welcome to the show, Michael.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Steve.
Okay, it's an honor to have you on again. Okay, that is really, really super cool. Would you like to take a moment to tell our audience about your educational journey?
Well, I started teaching in 1991. I've taught elementary school for many years first. And then I was a specialist teacher. I was a PE specialist for about a dozen years. And then high school, and then taught high school also. And so one part or the other, I've taught every grade level. And started Smart Classroom Management in 2009 just as a blog, and just is still going strong today.
All right. Outstanding. Well, look, let me ask you, I know classroom management, particularly for new teachers just coming out of college, hitting, I mean, there are so many nuances to that. I mean, that obviously that you don't, and we talked about it before, that you don't actually get in your teacher preparation program. But Michael, let me ask you, what are some proactive strategies that teachers can implement in the first weeks of school to minimize misbehavior?
Well, the most important thing is to know what you want and what you expect from your students. That's first, because if you're not sure what you want your classroom to look like, if you don't have a vision for how you want your students to behave, then you're never going to be able to communicate that to your students. So that's number one. And then the second thing would be to then teach your expectations in extreme detail. The students really, really, really understand, and you check for understanding and make sure they understand the exact routines that go on throughout the day, the transitions, your rules and consequences, how they're to behave during lessons, how to talk with each other in groups, and how to pair share, and all those things, everything that encompasses the day from morning bell to dismissal. They need to know beyond a doubt what's expected of them, and you need to teach that to them. And the final bit would be to hold them accountable for those things.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me piggyback off something you said. You mentioned transitions. Did you have your favorite type of transition between subjects or, excuse me, classes?
Yeah, I think transitions are really, really important, and I don't think they're discussed enough. And so I believe that during transitions, You, as a teacher, you need to give your students a preview of what's coming.
Mm-hmm.
Because what that does is it allows them to relax and focus on what they're doing. And then you can point to the next transition or the next thing that's going to happen. So you could say, well, for the next 15 minutes, we're going to do this, this, and this. And then after that, we have lunch or we have recess or we're going to take a break. We're going to stand up and stretch. And the other thing about a preview is the students, they can, in their mind's eye, they can see themselves being successful doing those things.
Yeah, absolutely.
To it. And then the final thing is during a preview, you can sell what you're going to teach to your students. So you can say, hey, I'm going to show you something really cool that you've never seen before. So it gets them excited about what's going to happen. And then I said, finally, but actually one more thing is that you can also review what the expectations are for that period really quickly. Maybe review your classroom management plan if you need to, or remind them that maybe they're going to miss some of it if they get to a certain consequence for misbehavior, that kind of thing. So transitions are hugely important.
Okay, great. How can teachers effectively set and communicate classroom rules and expectations to prevent misbehaviors from the onset? I know some teachers have rules already in place. I know some, get buy-in and have the children and together, create the rules. What's your sense on that?
Yeah, I feel strongly that the teacher should decide the classroom rules and have them already worked out and ready to go before. And it's something that they should be teaching the first day of school. I know we're a couple weeks in, so if you haven't done that as a teacher, if you haven't done that yet, it's something you really need to think about, and then create those rules and consequences that make up your classroom management plan. And then teaching it's when I mentioned in great detail, the best way to do that is through modeling. You modeling what is and isn't okay, and then having students to help you model, and modeling the whole process of consequences. From warning, if you have a timeout, to contacting parents, that kind of thing.
Okay. Now, what about if a teacher came to you and said, I mean, is it okay for teachers to involve kids in coming up with the rules together? But of course, in your mind, you know what 3 or 4 you're going to actually pick, but just giving them a sense of, that they're buying in on something. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I know the idea is that the students would have more buy-in.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that as a teacher, especially in this day and age, it's more important to show your leadership, that you are someone that they can trust and they can follow. And it's your job to do that, to take care of that. It isn't the student's job. And I don't think it really causes any particular buy-in that has any relationship to their actual behavior. So I think it's best that the teacher comes up with those.
Oh, okay. All right. What role does building relationships with your students play in managing misbehavior during the initial weeks of school? And how can teachers foster these kinds of relationships?
Yeah, so this is a great question, and I think it's one that confuses a lot of teachers. There's a lot of new teachers because you're told, hey, you need to build relationships.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the idea of that usually causes teachers to go to students to try to build those relationships, individual relationships with students. But what that can do is it can make students very uncomfortable when you go to them, especially early in the school year. And so
Mm-hmm.
really backfire on you. The other thing is you don't really have time for that. So the way I look at it, and the most effective way to build those strong relationships is for you to think about a relationship between you and your whole class
Mm-hmm.
rather than with individual students. And if you're consistently pleasant and you do what you say you're going to do, and they trust you and they like you, then the relationships become natural and organic and influential rather than you going to them, which again can make students feel not only awkward, but can kind of push them away a little bit. So the idea is more to bring them to you, and that's how you have a much greater influence. So that's what I would suggest is just on good teaching and doing it kindly.
Okay, all right. Are you a teacher who finds yourself drowning in the challenges of classroom management? Do student behaviors leave you feeling overwhelmed and drained at the end of each day? Picture this, a classroom where your students are not just present, but fully engaged, focused, and eager to learn. Say goodbye to classroom management stress and hello to success. The Teacher RockStar Academy course is meticulously designed to equip you with the tools and strategies needed to skyrocket your effectiveness as a teacher. Curious to know if the Teacher RockStar Academy course is the missing piece in your teaching journey? If you're ready to reclaim control of your classroom and witness the incredible impact on your students, then use the link in the podcast description to learn more about this program. Well, how should teachers respond now to minor misbehaviors in the first weeks of school to ensure that it doesn't escalate into bigger things?
Yeah, so that's the purpose of your classroom management plan. So anything that threatens to disrupt the learning or enjoyment of being in your classroom, which also includes your freedom to teach, you have to have a rule that protects against that. And so there isn't such a thing as sort of a minor misbehavior that you remind students about and hopefully hope they'll get better, because it'll never get better if you remind them. You actually have to have accountability. So you have to have consequences for those misbehaviors. And so, and again, that nips these smaller, minor misbehaviors in the bud so they don't become larger misbehaviors that really disrupt things.
Well, now, what would that look like, though, Michael? I mean, you have somebody that breaks one of it goes again the classroom management plan, and so what does the first offense look like?
A warning, for sure. I believe there should be a warning, and it's a warning in name only. It's really it's really what's
almost like a freebie.
Kind of a freebie. I don't like to use a freebie bit, but you're giving a student an opportunity to fix it on their own, which is really, really powerful. And so I think a warning does that. It forces them, not forces them, but it compels them to reflect on their misbehavior. It gives them a chance to fix it on their own. And when they're able to do that, then that sort of personal discipline will improve their maturity, and they'll learn a lesson from it and be better because of it. But if that happens again, so if a student breaks another rule, then you would have the next consequence. Now, there's no magic in the rules and consequences. The magic is in you following them.
Yeah.
And whatever you say, you have to make sure that you do. Now, at Smart Classroom Management, we believe in a timeout or a observation mode for the second consequence. Many reasons for that, but the key really is to do what you say you're going to do.
Okay, so the second consequence might be maybe withhold a privilege, perhaps.
No, because we want them to reflect on the misbehavior, right? Their reflection has to come from within. And so it needs to be done. If it didn't happen during the warning, it needs to be done on a deeper level. And so we believe in moving that student to, it's more of it's not so much as a physical move, though it can be. So there is a timeout area or a observation mode area, but it's more of a symbolic separation from a classroom they like being part of. And this causes them to have a natural reflection about their misbehavior. And we believe in a little bit longer timeout than most people recommend. So 12, even 15 minutes. And over time, because they learn from it over time, they spend far less time away. But we also do it because we don't want them to miss any instruction whatsoever.
Yeah.
And it's not like a dunce cap punishment. It's seen as a place to, for one, we have to protect the rights of everyone else in the classroom to learn and enjoy being there. And second thing, it gives them a chance to reflect on it. So they can still do all the work. They're required to listen and do all those things, but they can't participate in learning games, in group work, and or participate in the class otherwise.
Okay, so let me follow up on it. So they're away from the group, and so whatever work the group is doing, the person in timeout is going to do the same thing?
Yes, so they're required, they can't miss any work.
Yeah.
Required to listen to the instruction. So if we're working on an essay or they're working in math or science, whatever, they're going to follow along and do the work, but on their own. Right.
Okay.
And they otherwise can't participate in the classrooms. I recommend having creating a fun, interesting classroom where there's a lot of activity and students moving and getting up and participating in their learning. And so they're unable to do that, but they're not going to miss anything. Mentally, they have to follow everything and watch everything and observe everything that goes on.
Okay. And then, of course, if it happens again, I believe that would be the letter home to parent, right?
Well, now we recommend, it depends on the grade level. We recommend cycling that student back to timeout or every time. And also it's important to point out that this is for elementary and lower middle school. So there's a different plan that we recommend for upper middle and high school. But for elementary students, they would cycle back into timeout. And then as far as contacting parents, a letter can be especially effective. However, there are some requirements that need to be met before you as a teacher do something. I don't recommend it for new teachers. I do recommend either a phone call home or an email home to parents, not because we expect the parents to manage or help manage the behavior in the classroom. That's our job. It's because if their child is misbehaving 3 times or more in a single school day, after proving they understand the rules, now that's key.
Yeah.
Proving that they really understand, then the parents have a right to know. As a parent, you want to know. And so we're just informing the parent that this is what's happening. And it bears mentioning that because this is something that we explain thoroughly at back to school night, we recommend a packet that goes home to parents that sort of explains these things. So the parent understands why you're calling home and what it means. And we're not telling parents that we need their help, or we're not complaining about the student, anything like that. We're just saying, hey, this is what happened. I want you to, like I explained, this is our philosophy, and we're letting you know this is happening, and here's what I'm doing about it. Here's how I'm taking care of it.
Yeah.
To the parents, how they choose to discuss it with their child.
Okay, well, let me ask you this now. You talked about parents. Well, what types of effective methods that teachers can do to involve their parents or guardians in addressing and managing, student misbehavior during the, early part of the school year?
Yeah, so I really think it's important to have parent involvement. And I also think it's really important to have a classroom that your students love coming to.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
when they do, they tell their parents, they talk to their parents about how much they love being in this classroom, they love their teacher, and that encourages them, the parents, to come around more often. And then the other thing is that we should invite parents.
Yes.
So when I was an elementary teacher, I had a large number of parents who would rotate in during the week, and I would have them. I would have this role for them during group work, and they wouldn't do any teaching at all. They do the kind of the observing, uh,
Hmm.
and then I would also have them be readers during independent reading. The parents would read with the child would read to the parent, and I'd have some questions the parent would ask. But I would have sometimes up to 20 parents a week kind of rotating through. And so I really think your door should be open all the time. I tell parents, come in anytime. Come on in. Doors always open. We have no secrets. Everything is out in the open. Total transparency with kids and parents. This is what we're all about here. And we take the judgment out of it from us, and we are a referee following through in order to protect the rights of our kids to learn and enjoy being there. And parents tend to love this and bend over backwards to support you in all of the things that we recommend.
When Michael, when you're actually teaching, would you recommend teachers? I know administrators have different things on this, having the door open while you teach or having it closed. What was your sense on that?
When I'm able to, always want it open.
Yeah, yeah,
Of
that's.
course, I'm in California too, and so we're open to the outside,
Hmm.
which is nice. It's
Yeah,
nice to have the sunshine there. But I know there are security reasons why there are some schools and districts that require you to keep it closed. But if able to, I prefer to
yeah.
have it open.
Have it open.
Yeah.
Okay, and how important do you think it is? When you're meeting kids for the first time during the day, every day for that matter, that you're at the door greeting them personally, giving positive affirmations, whatever. Very important, isn't it?
Yeah, it's huge, huge. Just say
Huge,
hi and
huge.
smile. Yeah, there were many years where, and again in California, we're outside. We would meet our students out on the playground. They'd line up with parents. I'd always go out early just to
Uh-huh.
chat with them with no strings attached.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's a very effective way. And we're talking about building rapport, just to be there and give a fist bump, no strings attached, not talking about academics or how I want this from them or anything like that. And same with parents, just be out there saying hi, talking about the game the night before, or whatever, one of those kinds of things. And then smiling and walking down. I'd fist bump every student, smile at every student, let them know I'm happy to see them,
Hmm.
especially those students who maybe the day before they didn't have their best day.
Yeah.
I'd say, hey, happy to see you today. That kind of
All right. Well, let me ask you something, Michael. What is the biggest takeaway that you'd like to share with our audience? Say if you were talking directly to a brand new teacher, just fresh out of college, and what would you tell that teacher? Biggest takeaway.
Well, after what we just talked about, I would say consistency is everything. It's everything. You have to do what you say you're going to do. And there are going to be moments that are difficult to do that.
Hmm.
Every ounce of your body is going to be screaming, no, don't do it, don't do it, don't. And that student who maybe they break a rule, but maybe it has no real effect on what's going on right now, and you still have to hold them accountable for it. And just with everything, if you say, and one of the things that we recommend promising students that you're never going to raise your voice, lose emotional control, and that sort
Yeah.
of thing, and you're not going to berate students and anything like that. You have to follow through on those things, because if you say one thing and do another, you undermine everything. Students don't trust you, they won't like you, you don't have that rapport with them. Or they'll, even worse is when they students privately dislike their teacher.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
see it when I walk in the classrooms. The teacher has no idea, but I can tell that there's been there's animosity there.
yeah, yeah, man. Well, Michael, how can folks connect with you?
Just at smartclassroommanagement.com.
Okay. All
Um,
right. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say I do. I put out an article every week. So I encourage your listeners to subscribe to get those articles in their email box, and then also do weekly videos on Facebook.
Okay. And before I let you go, I need to show our new teachers this book right here. I don't know how well you can see it, but it's called The Classroom Management Secret and 45 Other Keys to a Well-Behaved Classroom. You need to get that book. If you're a new teacher, it is a great read. It's available on Amazon and also through smartclassroommanagement.com. So get you that book, okay? I highly, highly recommend that. Well, Michael, looky here. I just want to thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to talk to us. It's an honor to have you on the show again. And I hope somewhere down the line we can do this again.
For sure. It's always a pleasure to talk with you, Steve.
Okay, great, great. Well, you take care, Michael.
Okay, you too. See ya.
Bye-bye. Well, we have come to the end of today's episode. Thanks for listening to the Teacher RockStar podcast. I'm your host, Steve Hiles. We hope you've got some golden nuggets regarding how to handle misbehavior the first weeks of school. And don't forget to subscribe to us at the Teacher RockStar podcast. And if you'd like to support us, please feel free to share our podcast with others, post about it on social media, and leave a rating and review. That would be greatly appreciated as always. Thanks again. We'll see you same time, same place next week. And remember, my friend, you got this.
You've been listening to the Teacher RockStar podcast with your host, Steve Hiles. We hope you've enjoyed this podcast as much as we have. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and join our ever-growing community of Teacher Rockstars. Until then, thanks for listening.